Hey, how you doing? Okay, so this is going to be episode 98, and it's also going to be episode 19. So if you're watching for the first time, don't freak out and say, hey, where'd all the other episodes go? I'm replacing episode 19 because the first time around, I don't think I did it justice. It's on a very, very important topic and a very, very important concept. In fact, this may be the most single important message you ever get from me, because this message is going to help you understand how you have all of your own answers to every question you could ever ask, and it's built within you to find. And so all the people that you would ever listen to in your entire life to learn things, put that secondary in comparison to what you can access and what you can learn from within yourself. That's how important this is. So every spiritual master you could ever talk to, put them second in line. The Buddha, Dalai Lama, Gandhi, the Pope, everyone, put them second in line to what you can learn from within yourself. That's how important today's message is. And I'm going to explain that to you in just a second. Go. Hey, welcome to the Iron Podcast, where we answer all the questions about spirituality and inner peace that you ever wanted to ask, and where we understand the secrets of humanity and divinity through a better understanding of both. I'm your host, Sean Webb. Okay, so what I'm talking about today specifically is the topic of spiritual enlightenment, and specifically the enlightenment experience. Okay, so what is spiritual enlightenment and what is the enlightenment experience? Well, spirituality in general is the thing that we call the experiences that we have, or the phenomenon that we have, that transcend seemingly our mind and our body. So we have the body, the mind, and the spirit, and the things that transcend the body and that transcend the mind are the things that we call spiritual, or spirit, or the other, whatever you want to call it. And so spiritual enlightenment is a learning, an awakening, an expansion of your consciousness that seemingly happens beyond your mind and beyond your body. Now, there's some scientific stuff that I'm going to share with you about spiritual enlightenment moving forward, and this is probably going to be the only place that you're going to get a comprehensive spiritual and scientific explanation of spiritual enlightenment. But it's basically when your consciousness expands into a space where you have access to extra intelligence and extra wisdom and extra learning that you didn't think you had access to, whether that exists in your body in the DNA level, or whether that exists out beyond us in a cosmic existence. I don't know, but it's there and you can access it. Now, I know some of you out there are like, what? This guy's friggin' crazy. And often when I'm talking to a spiritual person, there's a voice in the back of my head saying, okay, where's the crazy? Because, they'll be talking, oh, I love this and that, and, it's a great feeling, and I love sharing things, and etc. And, oh, by the way, I channeled the angel Gabriel. Oh, yeah, there it is. There's the crazy. Good. Well, at least I know where it is. I don't want to have that moment with you. I don't want you to say, oh, yeah, well, there's the crazy in that guy, because this is just something new that you haven't heard about before that you definitely need to hear about. Because, scientifically, the enlightenment experience is being proven in lab studies and experiments. So we'll talk about that. And then there's a ton of historical precedent and significance that you should know about, and we'll talk about that. And we also probably need to clarify a little bit more about what the enlightenment experience is. So let's do that. Okay, so beyond the nebulous definition of expansion of consciousness that I gave you, the experience of enlightenment is an experience that you can have from within yourself. You don't need any outside assistance at all. It's just finding that space within yourself that then opens your mind and opens your consciousness into that expanse of being able to see the things that you weren't able to see that were just beyond your grasp moments before. It is a, for lack of a better word, a set of visions, and it kind of jerks you out of your regular existence into that greater space that allows you to then grow. Okay, now let's talk about the historical significance of the Enlightenment experience. If you're a Christian, Paul was the first enlightened Christian. On the road to Damascus, if you go read the story, he was consumed by this white light, by this all-encompassing love, by this unconditional love, and finally understood, after having had a lifetime of being Saul and persecuting Jesus and speaking out against Jesus, all of a sudden, boom, the Enlightenment experience occurs. He understands everything that Jesus is talking about, even though he never met the guy, and now goes on to form the entire Christian religion and the church. Okay, and he changed his name to Paul from Saul. So that's how profound that this Enlightenment experience is. If you want to go to Islam, Muhammad, went up on the mountain and received the Quran. Right, the early biographies of Muhammad said that he was so overwhelmed with all the information that he got and all of the Quran within him, and the task of teaching people this was so daunting. His first instincts, he was so afraid and so overwhelmed that he wanted to go jump off a cliff. And didn't, and then poof, wrote the Quran. It's full of beautiful language if you've never read it, and it is full of love, and, of course the extremists bastardize everything. Don't forget 1995, the Morrow Building in Oklahoma City was a Christian act. The Quran came into being, and the entire religion of Islam came out of one man's Enlightenment experience. In Judaism, the sect of Judaism that focuses on the mystical is called Kabbalah. You may have heard about it. You may not have heard about it. Kabbalah used to be required teaching inside of Judaism. If you were a Jew, you were getting taught Kabbalah. And within Kabbalah, there is, of course, enlightenment, and specifically the state of Yehidah. And Yehidah is basically the state of mind that you exist within after enlightenment. And so if you were a Jew, you were taught Kabbalah, you were taught about Yehidah, you were taught that these type of things were what you were looking to receive. And now, of course, they don't teach it anymore because it was rare, and so very few people can teach it, and so it just kind of fell along the wayside. In Buddhism, the entire Buddhist philosophy and tradition is based on one man's enlightenment, the Buddha. The Buddha literally means the enlightened one, the enlightened guy, that dude. And he is a dude, just like you and me. He's simply one who had passed through the Enlightenment experience and expanded his consciousness into that space where you can understand everything about your pain and suffering and take control of your entire life. And that's what he taught people. And that's why Buddhism is so huge, because it's based on the Enlightenment experience that you can find within. It was just him sitting under the Bodhi tree, which is the story of his enlightenment. And he sat there and he meditated until such point that he became enlightened. And now let's transition from by the way, the Hindus call enlightenment moksha and the state of nirvana. They chase after it directly. Sufism within Islam chases after enlightenment directly. The Sikhs chase after enlightenment. The Baha'is chase after enlightenment. And Christianity is supposed to also chase after enlightenment. In fact, the Gospel of Thomas, the reason it was left out of the Bible is because Jesus talks about nothing but enlightenment in coded language in that book. And we'll have a special series on the Gospel of Thomas so you can understand that better moving forward. But from a global perspective in religion, enlightenment is tied to everything. And the reason that is, if you understand and experience enlightenment, it definitely expands your understanding of divinity and God and everything spiritual from what you thought you knew. When you thought you knew everything, you realize, holy crap, that was simply the linen closet in the mansion of knowing of what can be understood about spirituality, about God, about existence, about happiness, about true love and unconditional love and existence and that type of thing. So getting back to our transition into the scientific. The reason that this is so prolific throughout every religion that exists in history, scientifically, the Enlightenment experience occurs when conscious thought ceases within the mind. Okay, so how does that tie into religion? Prayer was not designed to be, God, please give me the lottery numbers. Prayer was designed to be a contemplative practice of silencing the mind and listening for God, reducing conscious thought to zero and listening for God. Meditation, meditative practices in world religions globally are all about reducing the noise within the mind so that you can hear the thing that exists just beyond, reducing conscious thought and thus triggering the Enlightenment experience. It's the reason that, for instance, Jesus gave everybody one prayer. Memorize the Lord's Prayer. That's all you need. And then repeat that over and over and over, because if you're thinking about less in your prayer, then you're closer to no thought. The reason that you repeat, like, Hail Marys and Our Fathers and yada, 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 if you reduce the things that you have to think about to a repetitive type of activity, then you're just one step away from thinking of nothing and triggering the Enlightenment experience, that direct divine connection. From a scientific perspective, when conscious thought ceases, a chemical is released within your brain. And that chemical, called dimethyltryptamine, it's an endogenous dimethyltryptamine. It's created within your brain and also within your lungs and also within your liver and other organs within your body. Dimethyltryptamine is the most single powerful hallucinogen on planet Earth. When this enters your bloodstream and enters your brain, it overwhelms your neurons and rewires your brain for a short time. No adverse effects at all, because it's created by your body, it's released by your body. And if you want to read a good book about dimethyltryptamine and some scientific experiments, you can go read Rick Strassman's book, The Spirit Molecule. But dimethyltryptamine is released every night inside you when you sleep, during your REM sleep cycle. And so this is somewhat connected with the theory of dreaming and things like that. But basically, it's a huge hallucinogen that is released every time your conscious thought ceases at night. Now, the focus of meditation is to cease your conscious thought and to quiet your mind into that space. And if you can do that well enough to where your mind stops thinking, I believe it is either designed within you, if you're a person of faith, or if you're a scientist, evolutionarily developed within you to release during waking hours for some purpose. What is that purpose? I don't know. If you're a spiritual person, you could say it's to provide you a direct connection with God, because if you have that experience, you by no means doubt that you are in God's presence when you have that experience. If you're on the scientific side, I don't know what the evolutionary benefit could be of having this, except for the fact that after you have this experience, everyone in the world is your brother. You love everyone. You couldn't hurt anyone. So it's a propagation of the species thing, potentially. I don't know. But I love every one of you people after this experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So that is there for us to find. And when that enlightenment occurs within you, it changes your life forever. And for the better, period. And so this episode is to tell you that enlightenment experience, that expansion of consciousness exists. And it is waiting for you within you so that you know that it's real. It's not something you have to buy into, or you have to believe, or you have to read a certain book and believe a certain way and yada, yada, yada. It is within you to find. And it is the basis of all world religions. And so if you want a direct line to spirituality or to the intelligence within you that exists beyond your mind's capability of comprehending, shutting off your conscious thought during wakeful hours is what you need to do. And now I wrote an article called The Top 15 Ways to Achieve Spiritual Enlightenment. And if you are new to meditation, there are 8 different types of meditation in that article. And there are a number of other disciplines that you can use to try to cease conscious thought or to calm your mind. And remember, we're talking about plasticity here. If you start meditating and calming your mind and entering those spiritual spaces, your brain actually changes to help you do it. Within 8 weeks, it starts changing its structure to be able to assist you in meditating. You have this opportunity to listen to the things that exist beyond just that voice inside your head that we're talking about, the ego and your me. That me makes a lot of noise. And when that me is making a lot of noise, you can't hear the things that exist just beyond you. You can't hear the energy that exists because science has already proven that we're attached to everything. You know, locality went out the window in 1982 when quantum physics proved that, you know, quantum entanglement, which is a friend of mine actually discovered quantum entanglement. He's up for the Nobel. One electron spins one way and the other electron spins the other way, or it's actually a degraded particle. But so let's say these two particles are spinning in opposite directions. They can separate over infinite distances, and if you change the spin of one, it instantaneously changes the spin of the other particle because they're entangled. Now this breaks all the laws of physics. And so, scientifically proven over hundreds of experiments at this point, quantum entanglement exists. And they're starting to build quantum computers. And if you want to read some cool stuff about science and about quantum physics, Wikipedia, Google, they're all over the place. Go read that stuff. It's some deep, in-depth stuff. And their quotes are, if you think you understand quantum physics, you don't understand anything about quantum physics. But the reality is, we are creatures within the quantum field. And so everything that exists within science also exists within our body. And so we are entangled with stuff all over the universe. And so with things changing in the universe, it changes us. When things change within us, it changes the universe or wherever we're connected to. And so calming this noise to hear that kind of stuff is possible. So this isn't crazy just because it may be the first time that you're hearing it. It's just something new, but it's something that does exist, and it's something that now that we have this communications technology, you don't have to go trudging off into Tibet up on top of some mountain to find some enlightened guru to be able to explain it to you and get you to the point where you can then open it for yourself. You can get on the internet, you can watch some videos, and you can understand it to a higher level than most everyone you'll ever meet now. So don't waste it. Don't squander it. If you're a scientifically minded person, there's something in there that we can't yet explain that opens your consciousness and opens your intelligence and expands your level of intelligence and wisdom beyond that you thought you could control previously. And I'm living proof of that because I'm explaining to the world now for the first time a 4,000-year-old mystery of psychology of what catalyzes human emotions, and not one PhD in psychology and not one study in psychology can refute the model that I'm putting forward. So there's that from the science side. From the spiritual side, we're all about connecting with each other and connecting with God or connecting with that intelligence, that source, or whatever you want to call it. We're all about expanding that space and being at more harmony with ourselves and the universe. And that's what this thing grants. So even if I didn't do this topic justice the second time around, understand that spiritual enlightenment exists. It is as ancient as written history. It is the basis for everything that I understand to be spiritual. it does exist for you to find without having to listen to anybody else. You have all your own answers within you, because every question you could ever ask is answered by this single 10 to 15 minute experience that you can get this chemical released within your brain by ceasing your conscious thought, meditating down to that level to get this chemical released in your brain. It answers everything for you. All of your answers to why am I here? What's it all about? How can I love people better? How can I forgive people? How can I be a more compassionate person? All that stuff, done 15 minutes into it. You're done. You know it all. It's like PhD in compassion. Boom. Done. Granted. Thump. Stamp. So if I did not do this justice, go out somewhere else and read about enlightenment and meditate, or pick another discipline that can get your mind into that space. Because the more you can expand your conscious awareness into what is beyond the confines of your skin, what is beyond the confines of your mind, into a more global and universal space, the better you're going to treat yourself, the better you're going to treat your fellow man, the more calm and inner peace you're going to experience. And I can't tell you what that's done to my life. It's amazing. It is the best thing that's ever happened to me, ever. I will never quit talking about it, ever, until my last dying breath. And I hope and pray that you find it too. So, okay, the next episode, in episode 20, is going to be about my personal enlightenment experience, just to give you a little idea of what I experienced. And I hope this message finds you well. And I hope if we didn't hit a chord here today, that it at least gives you the inquisitive nature to go out and seek a little bit more about understanding enlightenment, the enlightenment experience, and how to get there. If you have any questions, please let me know. I am here to help you. That's all I can do. I love you, folks. Talk to you soon. Peace.